We are back with another Understanding the Officer video. I'm going to start trying to crank these out at a little faster rate because the feedback that I've been getting on these has been incredible. They've been doing extremely well, better than I thought they would. So I want to start getting these moving a little bit faster so we can start covering all of the officers in the game and get caught up to the most current officers to give everybody, new and veteran players alike, an opportunity to get a little bit more of an in-depth look and understanding at some of these officers. And the officer that we are going to be talking about today is going to be White Wolf. Welcome back. I hope everybody is doing wonderful. As always, like I said in the intro, today's focus is going to be White Wolf, another Generation 1 officer. Now, before we get going, if you enjoy this video and want to see more Understanding the Officer videos, make sure you smash that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you are not already so you don't miss any future uploads. Let's try to get this video to at least 125 likes. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and jump in and start talking about White Wolf. So now White Wolf is an interesting officer. She's a Generation 1 officer that for the better part of 2.5 years in Warpath, she was completely and utterly useless for the most part. Now, she is a completely free-to-play officer, so you can fully awaken her, and she's actually a little bit of a unique officer because you can get her statues, you can invest universal statues into her, of course, if you want. I highly advise against that, and I'm going to explain that here in just a second. And the reason I advise against it is because you can get White Wolf statues by completing officer missions. Daily officer missions will yield you White Wolf statues. And so it takes a little bit more time, obviously, but patience is key. And if you will just have some patience, you will get her fully awakened and not have to invest a single universal officer statue in her. But she has more recently kind of burst back onto the scene because infantry in Warpath over the last 9-ish months has become very popular. The developers have worked hard to buff up infantry. They've almost overkilled it, to be perfectly honest with you, but they've buffed them up so much that infantry is now an extremely, extremely good unit to have and an extremely helpful unit to have for your alliance. So White Wolf has definitely become more popular in recent months again. Now, she is a more offensive-focused infantry-specific officer. So you're going to have to make sure that you pair her with the right infantry unit from the right camp. So what I mean is you're probably not going to... I mean, she's going to do fine on any of the camps, right? But if you're going to use an infantry unit in a more offensive role, then you're going to want to definitely look at White Wolf for that, but you're also going to want to invest in something like a Vanguard infantry that is more offensive focus based. Now, the other kind of Generation 1 infantry-specific officer, which we're going to have a video get dedicated to her as well, as Angel of Light. And we're going to talk about Angel of Light just briefly a little later in this video. But she is more of a defensive and healing-focused infantry officer. But again, White Wolf is very much offensive-focused, but she does have value even in a defensive role. So, for example, her first skill tosses anti-armor grenades, dealing damage to an enemy. Damage coefficient is 1200 and 30% damage to a random enemy within 2 map grids. If this officer is in an infantry troop, this skill deals 25% extra damage. You can see right out of the gate why she does well in a more offensive-based role, especially on infantry units, because she has a pretty high damage output. Jumping to skill number 2, stacking even more damage on top of that initial damage from her tactical skill, you're going to get an additional 15% damage buff. Now, this is also a skill, just a little side note or another little tip or value add here for you. This is one of her passive skills. So, and this is a universal passive skill, meaning it can be applied and give benefit to any troop type, regardless of if it's infantry, tank, artillery, whatever. You can use this later game on the skill training system if you don't run infantry at all, or if you don't run White Wolf on any of your units, she can give any of your units a 15% damage buff through the officer skill training system. Again, just a little bit of a side note there. Her third skill increases the firepower of this officer's infantry by 30%. So again, another offensive based skill there. And then her fourth skill increases the damage resist of this officer's infantry's bunkers by 15%. So, and damage resist is definitely more beneficial than HP, just kind of apples to apples comparison there. So the damage resist is a big value add. So you do have a little bit of defensive or protection based skills along with all of her offensive focus skills as well. So now that we have a good understanding of White Wolf in the basic form and also how to get her statues passively and without having to invest any universal golden officer statues, let's transition now and talk about who she pairs well with, both in the early game and in the mid to later stages of the game, because she is, again, starting to become more and more popular and more relevant because she is a good officer, a very good officer at that, for infantry. And as popular as infantry is becoming, she's definitely somebody you want to take note of. So the other Generation 1 infantry-specific officer, like we mentioned a couple of minutes ago, is going to be Angel of Light. Now, Angel of Light, as you can see here, is very much a protection and healing-based officer. Now, again, we're going to have a video dedicated to Angel of Light specifically, so we're not going to go too crazy down that rabbit hole here. But these two, especially early game, if you do want to invest in infantry, are going to pair very well together because you've got an offensive-based officer and a defensive/healing-based officer, so they kind of counterbalance each other really well there. Another officer that a lot of people I don't think realize does pretty well on infantry and would be a good early game pairing would be Percy. Percy has quite a few protection-based skills. She offers some HP, some damage resist or blast damage resist, so she's a decent officer for infantry as well in the early game. Now, as you get transitioned to the later stages of the game, you're going to unlock quite a few more infantry-specific officers that are going to be pretty high value. Now, if you are running an infantry and want to run infantry in a more offensive-focused role, meaning attacking other units in the open field, then you've got a couple of really good officer options to pair with White Wolf, as we know, because White Wolf is a more offensive-focused officer, so you can really stack some offensive-focused skills with her. And that first one is going to be Lonesome Star. He does really well on infantry in an offensive-based role. And then the next one is going to be Herald of Peace. Both of these are great options for, again, a more offensive-focused infantry unit. So both would pair really well with White Wolf. And then, of course, you have got Everbloom. Now, Everbloom overall is probably the best infantry-specific officer in the game. She is definitely more defensive-focused, though, so she is going to pair well, again, not going into the weeds with this, but she's going to pair well with, really, to be fair, any infantry officer that you want to put her with. So she would be a good pairing if that's what you wanted to do, but she's going to pair probably better with the likes of, like, Angel of Light, who's also more of a protection and healing-based officer. But Everbloom, just pound for pound, is at least worth mentioning because she is overall probably the highest value infantry officer, at least currently in Warpath. So that's going to wrap us up for our breakdown of White Wolf. If you are a new player, let me know in the comments below. Are you planning on investing in infantry at all, or are you going to stay away? If you are going to be investing in infantry, what camp are you going to be investing in, and who do you want to have officer-wise on your infantry units? I'd love to hear, like I said, in the comments below. If you have made it this far into the video, if you've got access to Discord but are not already in our Discord community, the link to that is going to be in the description of this video. Click on that link. It'll take you directly into the Discord community. Whether you are a new player, have questions, want to learn, whether you're a veteran player and just want to come hang out and get to know more people in the community, doesn't matter. Absolutely everybody is welcome. As always, thanks for taking the time to watch this video. We'll see you on the next one.